Hoosier basketball is finally back after a long, long break. An exciting offseason, new coaching change, new players, lots of reasons to be optimistic and excited for Tuesday's season opening contest. We have you covered with everything about that game, a little bit of a preview for Eastern Michigan, and some things we're going to be watching for tonight's contest on today's episode.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? It is Tuesday, November 9th. This is Locked On Hoosiers, your daily source for IU news, analysis, everything you guys can want for IU athletics. I'm your host, as always, Jacob Rude. I appreciate you guys making us your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Hoosiers. As I said, it's the kickoff for IU basketball. It's finally here, and I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. I'm sure everybody is excited to see Coach Woodson back in Assembly Hall on the sidelines this time, not on the court, but back in Assembly Hall, leading the Hoosiers. Excited for Trace Jackson Davis. Lots of things to be excited for. We're going to talk about that today, what we're looking forward to in tonight's game. Just give you a general rundown, general preview, similar to what we do with football. Give you a preview of tonight's game. Before we do that, though, as always, make sure you guys are subscribed wherever you listen to Locked On Hoosiers. You can follow us on Twitter at LO_Hoosiers and on Instagram at Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate all the support you guys have given us everywhere. Tonight's game should be a fairly easy one, knock on wood. We have been, hopefully the Mike Woodson era gets off to a better start than the Archie Miller era did. I still remember I was in an old job when Archie Miller kicked off his tenure. Was on the sideline of a sectional football game where it was about 5 degrees. My phone got so cold it shut off. Got into the car, got warmed up, got it turned on, checked to see how much the Hoosiers won by. Yeah, everything after that was pretty bad. So hopefully there is no Indiana State performance again. Based on what research I was able to do, I don't think Eastern Michigan is going to have that level of offense or anything to that degree. But tonight's game will start at 6 p.m., obviously in Assembly Hall. It'll be on the Big Ten Network. These two teams have met a handful of times in the past. The last meeting, Indiana's won all 4 of those meetings, the last one coming 2017. They won 87-67. They moved to 4-2 on the season. That was under Archie. They finished 16-15 that year. That was his first season. That was after the aforementioned Indiana State game. So not a great omen in that regard. Robert Johnson was the leading scorer that game. Josh Newkirk, a name I have not mentioned or thought about in a long time, had 17 points in that game. Prior to that, they had met once in 2005, once in the 80s, and once in the 70s. Each of those first 3 meetings, IU was ranked in the polls. That 05 meeting featured Robert Vaden scoring 18 points, Marco Killingsworth, cult icon, cult hero for the Hoosiers, had 14 points. So some memorable games, some memorable teams that have played, I guess I should say, during this series. BetOnline has IU by 24 points in this one, over under of 142. I was honestly surprised that they even had a line for this game, just because I expected it to be a blowout. But listen, everybody will bet on something. So if you're betting on um, week or game one college basketball, my thoughts are with you. Ken Palm, who we are going to reference a lot this year, similar to SP Plus with football. Ken Palm is advanced analytics, advanced numbers that will give us a more in-depth look at the Hoosiers this season. Ken Palm is never very kind to the Hoosiers under Archie Miller. Some really ugly performances, really ugly teams. But heading into this one, based on projections, I don't really know how much you can project with a lot of these teams, especially this Hoosier team. Hoosiers are 31st in the nation projected coming into the year. Eastern Michigan is 297th. We're going to look at them a little more in depth here in a minute. But Ken Palm predicts an 81-58 victory. That is a 22-point win. So Eastern Michigan would cover if you want to head on over to BetOnline based on that. The important thing, though, is that a 98% win probability for the Hoosiers. This should be part of an easy start to the season, which you can understand the team and the program wanting as Mike Woodson takes over. But this should be, it's not their easiest game on the schedule, not heading into the season at least, but this should be a fairly easy contest. But Eastern Michigan has a lot of similarities with the Hoosiers this season. It was interesting doing some research on them. There's a lot of things that reminded me about IU when I looked into their program, including their own alumni coming from the professional ranks to take over the program this season. We'll dive into Eastern Michigan and what they have in store tonight in just a minute. Before that, though, I want to talk about our friends at PrizePicks. We've talked about them a lot for college football, but they also have college basketball, daily fantasy. They are your leader in daily fantasy, no matter the sport, no matter the it's esports. It's I'm looking at the site now. It's tennis. It's college basketball, women's college basketball. It's NBA. It's NFL. It's anything you could imagine. These guys have you covered. It doesn't look like right now they have Indiana's game available for college basketball. They do tend to add things kind of late, so be sure to check in tomorrow to see if this if they have this game added. For those that don't know, PrizePicks offers more college football, college basketball props than anyone in the world. For college football, they have all your Power 5 as well as your mid-major players, guys you probably haven't even heard of, your Bailey Zappies from Western Kentucky, for example. I'm sure we're all familiar with him. But it's a very simple process. You pick 2 to 5 entries, pick the over-under on the props, whether it's rushing yards, receiving yards, whether it's points for basketball, whatever it is. You can do up to 5 entries, make your selections, win up to 10 times your entry. All the users that deposit and use promo code Locked On will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. That's free money you can go use either on IU basketball tonight, IU football on Saturday. Use it on NFL. Use it on whatever you guys wish, but it's free money for you guys that we're trying to give away. Just use that promo code Locked On. Don't hesitate. Check out PrizePicks. Use that promo code. You can go to the App Store, go to the mobile site, whatever it is. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We're still going to talk about Eastern Michigan, get a preview for those guys here in just a moment. When we're done with all that, make sure you head on over to Locked On Eagles for your second listen today. We talked last week about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine scoring a touchdown. Jordan Howard had his second week in a row scoring a touchdown. So head on over there and hear about him, hear about how he's playing. We talked about Jordan Howard last week when kind of looking back at memorable IU Michigan games. Definitely the best moment of his brief Hoosier career. Eastern Michigan will come into this, as I mentioned, 297th out of 358. They, too, have a new head coach this season. Name is Stan Heath. He has not coached in college since 2014 at South Florida, but he has spent the last 4 years coaching in the G League. He spent that time with the Lakeland Magic, led them to a title in the G League. So maybe not the heights that Mike Woodson reached in the NBA, but still a successful professional coach. He came back to the program this season. He was an alma mater, or is an alma mater of Eastern Michigan, played there from 1984 to 1987. So very similar in that both, like Mike Woodson, Stan Heath came back to his alma mater. The difference being Mike Woodson's never coached in college basketball. Stan Heath has a pretty extensive college resume. He started at Kent State for a season, went to Arkansas for 5 years, got them into the polls, left in 2007 to go to South Florida, and spent 7 seasons at South Florida. He was in charge of the 2012 team that got up into the rankings, was a really successful team, 22-14, made the Sweet 16, lost to Ohio as a 12 seed. So he's built strong programs in the past, but he has a tough task ahead of him because Eastern Michigan has a lot of new faces. It's really hard to get a handle on all the players on this team, where they came from, who exceeded or succeeded, excelled, and succeeded at previous stops, because this is just a wholly new team. There are 9 freshmen listed on the roster for this team. There are 13 players who played at previous schools, whether it's a college, whether it's a community college, whether it's JUCO, whether it's a sports academy. They have brought faces in from everywhere. This roster is on the 2 extremes. There are 5 seniors, 2 redshirt juniors, a redshirt freshman, and 9 freshmen. So this is a lot of really old experienced players with a lot of really young players, and very little in between. So it's hard to know exactly what to expect with this program. What we do know is Bryce McBride is going to be one of the leaders of this team. Last year, he's their leading returning scorer. Talking's hard for me today, guys. The leading returning scorer from last season. One of the few holdovers between the 2 seasons, a point guard, average right at 14 points a game last year. He was a strong player for them. Comes back this season taking more of a leadership role. A role that, having watched an interview, reading some stuff, a role that he hasn't had before, but one he was kind of thrust into, more or less, considering all the turnover, all the new faces, a new coach, things of that nature. So in reading about them, they gave a lot of the buzzwords about what they want to be. A faster paced team. Quick strike was a word that they used. Man-to-man defense is what Coach Heath is going to be running. In the past, he's never had a really quick team. In fact, at South Florida, when he was at his best, he had one of the slowest teams in the country. That 2012 team that we mentioned that made the Sweet 16 was 343rd in adjusted tempo. So it was a team that wanted to move at an absolute snail's pace. But it sounds like this year the team wants to play faster. So I would assume we're not going to see the fourth slowest offense in the country, but that could lead to an interesting game because it sounds like the Hoosiers want to play a little more modern, a little quicker, get out and going. We could be in for a bit of a track meet. I would imagine with it being the first game of the season, that will probably lead to a pretty sloppy game at times, but I would imagine it's going to be a fast game. So it'll be a more watchable game than perhaps in recent years. That's about all we can tell from the Eastern Michigan team, though. Heading into the first game of the season, new coach, lots of new faces, not much of a scouting report on these guys, other than they probably are going to struggle with all those new faces, especially when so many are freshmen. But as I was alluding to, as we learned with Indiana State, don't overlook them. Anything is possible. So I am sure Coach Woodson will have these guys prepared. There's a couple things I'm going to be looking for from the Hoosiers on Tuesday. I'm sure you can guess some of them. You might be able to guess all of them. We'll talk about what I'm looking forward to, what I'm hoping to see from this team, but only after we talk a little bit more about BetOnline. Mention them having the IU spread for tonight's game. If you're feeling ambitious, head on over to BetOnline today for all the basketball and football action. BetOnline's the number one spot. Whether it's on the mobile app, whether it's on the website, head on over. New users that sign up today, use promo code LOCKED ON. You'll get a 50% welcome bonus. That's, again, free money. They're just trying to give away to you. You can use that to bet on the Hoosiers on Saturday against Rutgers, a game that they hopefully will win. So whether it's basketball, whether it's football, NHL is underway, boxing, UFC, whatever it is, even your favorite Vegas casino games, go take advantage of all the amazing offers these guys have for you in 2021. BetOnline's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. The couple things I'm going to be looking towards in tonight's matchup. Honestly, there are a lot of things that we have talked about. There's only so much you can say without repeating yourself. So I'm sure I have repeated myself a bit. The biggest thing is just establishing Trace Jackson Davis. I thought at times last season, the offense didn't run through him enough. He's going to be the most talented player we have on the roster this season. He's one of the most talented players we've had through the last couple of years. He is a truly special player, and I just want to see him established, whether it's in the post, whether it's on the perimeter, just having things run through him. He's going to draw the attention of defenses, play a little two-man game, let him work in the post, try to get him some baskets, just establish him as the guy on the team this season. That little more modern offense could allow him some freedom to get to the basket, use his finishing around the basket, a little bit of ball handling to make some plays. But that kind of ties into the next point, which I want to see a livelier offense. That was by far my biggest complaint with Archie Miller. That was the most boring basketball to watch on a night-to-night basis. It was a snail's pace, and it wasn't effective. The Hoosiers did not look good for most of the season. They were 289th in adjusted pace and still were 70th in offense. That just doesn't lead to fun basketball. You're one of the slowest offenses in the country and maybe very slightly above average efficiency. Like, it just doesn't create fun basketball. So a livelier offense, one that moves the ball around, one that players are moving, looking to get open, not moving just to just because the set calls for it, basically, not looking to get the ball. I felt at times last year guys were just going through the motions, basically, because there was a lot of things that were just kind of predetermined when it came to the Hoosier offense. So a livelier offense where guys are ready to get the ball, ready to make a play, kind of playing into that. I want to see shooting. Like the Hoosiers were awful last season shooting the basketball. Another aspect that was not fun. They were 236th in 3-point percentage at 32.4%. They were 291st in 3-point attempts per field goal attempt. So they just weren't shooting them and they weren't making them. That, again, you pair not being able to shoot with a really slow offense that's not really that efficient, average efficiency, you get unwatchable basketball. And that's the biggest thing I don't want tonight is unwatchable basketball. I want watchable basketball because I want to be excited about this team. I want to have fun, and I want to see a team that is having fun. And that's my last thing I'll be looking towards. I want to see guys having fun tonight. That absolutely was not happening at the end of last season. Guys were not having fun by the end of the year last year. That's what I want to see tonight. The energy, we've talked about this. It feels like the energy is higher than it has been in a long time at IU. Mike Woodson has kind of revitalized that, rejuvenated that. We talked with Tristan about it in last week's episode. He's brought a life back to the program, injected that into this program, and I want to see it carry over onto the court. You can win on the recruiting trail. You can win on the energy around campus, but that's only going to get you so far if you don't produce on the court. I want to see these guys get on the court and produce, look like they're having fun, look alive on offense, knock down some three-pointers, get Assembly Hall rocking again. It's been way too long since I've heard Assembly Hall rocking, so maybe that's my fifth point. I'm just looking forward to fans being back in Assembly Hall because it's been way too long since those guys have been loud on the TV screen or in attendance. I'm looking forward to all that. I'm just excited to have basketball back, excited to see what is in store for these Hoosiers this season. Thanks again, guys, for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every day. We're going to be back tomorrow to recap this game, look ahead to the men's soccer game against Northwestern as well, but most of the podcast will be focused on recapping this game. Now, for your second listen, head on over to the Locked On Big Ten podcast with Nate Dickinson. I assume they're going to still be talking about football. If you want to get some of your football needs filled, head on over there. There's still important football games to be played, even though the Hoosiers will not be taking part in any of them the rest of the season. Those guys do a great job over there, though. If you haven't already, leave a rating and review when you head on over to subscribe to the podcast. Helps us out. Really appreciate it. We will also talk this week about that IU Rutgers game. We'll talk about the IU Northwestern Big Ten tournament game. And the Hoosier basketball team has another game on Friday that we'll get you ready for as well. So lots and lots of action for the Hoosiers. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Hope you guys follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the podcast, rate and review, follow us on Instagram. Most importantly, though, have a great Tuesday.